Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and today's program I think you're going to enjoy because we're going to have what is often kind of fun to do, especially on radio and television when, darn it, I forgot all of my notes. What are we going to talk? They do what's called banter. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to talk about banter mixed with, kind of sounds like oil and water mixing, but we'll find out that it isn't, I think. Empathy, Bempathy, that is the title of the book as well. It's a game. It's a game-changing communication technique. And we're going to find out more about that with our very special guest, Jill Robin Payne. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Richard, for having me. I really appreciate it.
I think we're going to have an interesting conversation. Now, you're a psychotherapist,
Right.
and I always find
Yes.
it funny when I have psychotherapists on. I'm thinking, okay, I wonder if I'll get an analytic review at the end of the interview. Because I consider these programs as part of my therapy.
Well, imagine being married to one. I'm married to a therapist. He's retired, so he analyzes me every day, Richard. I won't be doing that to you, I promise.
All right. Well, on the other hand, I can use all the help I can get. But we will save that for another program, another time. Bempathy, the title of the
Yes.
book, which is, of course, available at Amazon through your website, which is, I'm going to give it out now, JillRobinPayne.com. That's GillRobinPayne.com. As I say, we will be linked to that website so people can find out more about you, the work you do. You're all over the media. You're all over social media, regular media, talking with people,
Right.
not just about Bempathy, but about a lot of other subjects. And I love this one line here that I couldn't agree with. I couldn't agree with this one more. Ditch the drama and unlock connection. I like the first part best.
Right.
I can't stand drama. I was sitting in a meeting yesterday, and the person was not really as interested in what they were telling me they wanted to do over the previous weeks as they were in this meeting yesterday. And I was actually starting to get a little annoyed. I'm thinking, wait a minute, you said you wanted to do this and this and this, and now all of a sudden you're saying, no, I don't want to do this. What? And there are times when the words are forming in my head, and I know better, and I don't say them. I consider, believe it or not, Jill, I consider the butterfly effect. What hurricane
Yes.
will I cause by sort of jumping down this person's throat?
Right.
But there are people who love the drama, aren't there?
Yes, there are.
They can't live
That's our
without it.
society. It's our society. It's the way, if you think about it, I do believe our society is creating a lot of mental health issues. And let me explain.
Please.
So we have something called algorithms, and we have them. They're not necessary, yet they do help us work. They help the process make it faster. They help us in sales. They help us make money. And what is happening though is we're creating a bubble around each person. So therefore, if I don't like peanut butter, I'm going to attract all this information that reinforces I don't like peanut butter and everybody else doesn't like peanut butter. So I
Hmm.
get in this bubble and we're humans. Okay, so Richard, I'm going to get used to hearing my own self from other people because I'm attracting the same thing. It's a
Mm.
bubble.
Hmm.
And so that's one. And the other thing is negativity bias. So we all have it. Anybody that says they're not biased has blind spot bias. So if
Uh-huh.
someone says they're, yeah, run if they say they're not biased.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, so and why we do this? Do you want to know?
Sure,
Because it is
please.
survival. Yeah, it's survival. So
Ah.
it'll make us think better of our people, our humans. So if I'm in the forest and I see a Big Mac over to my right, and then over to my left, a big bear, I am going to focus on what?
I'm going to focus
The
on the
bear,
bear.
right?
Mm.
I'm hoping so I can eat my Big Mac later. So that, right? So we focus on the negative to protect us so that we can get to our positive. And that's
Yeah,
what happens. So we're focused on it. If you
yeah,
have positive news, we like to see them, it's
yeah.
just rubbernecking.
Being in this
It's
business for 45 years, I understand the term, if it bleeds, it leads. I get that.
oh, wow.
I get that.
Yes, that's good. Bleeds it
Uh,
leads.
People probably are scouring YouTube and other video social media sources for as much video on the
Right.
LA fires,
Right.
on maybe the inauguration, the snow across the southeast of this country,
Right.
starting with your state, Texas,
Yes.
which, if I'm not mistaken, is a little unusual to have snow in Texas. It's not something that's commonly thought of,
Especially
uh,
Houston. Yeah.
especially down by the Gulf. Yeah. Speaking of
Right.
which,
Yes.
um, it's funny how we keep wanting to change the names of things over the course of time. There's now the proposal of changing the Gulf's name. Sorry, it's always going to be it's always going to be what it is now. It's kind of like the ballpark, the Major League ballpark in Arizona, in Phoenix, my
Right.
team, the
Yeah.
D-backs, the Diamondbacks.
Yes.
And they started playing in the ballpark. It looks like a giant warehouse called Bank One Ballpark, the Bob. I don't
Mm.
care who owns it. It will always be the Bob to me.
Right.
But we're always looking for and scrolling through to find. I'm now getting my mindset because I really do enjoy some of the kindness videos. Oh my God. And some of them are social experiments. There's a young man goes into a restaurant, gets a tray of food, and he's shaking.
Yeah.
And he sits down and he's trying to eat, and he's getting some in his mouth, but a lot of it spills down on the tray. And they show the camera of
Right.
people looking, and someone finally comes over and says, "Can I help you?"
Right.
And they feed him, and he stops shaking and he says,
Oh.
"Do you see the camera over there? Okay." And then gives them a gift for their kindness.
Oh.
Those are the kinds of videos. Or the one guy, I want to say his name is Zach, who goes into a restaurant, orders a plate of something, says, "How much is this?"
Right.
Tells him,
Right.
"Can I have 100 more?" 100. What are you doing? I said, "Well, I'm going to take this out and feed the homeless." Hey, no, okay, we'll get you 100, no charge, because we want to do our part too. And then
Oh.
they show the video of him handing the food out to the homeless. Those are the
Wow.
videos I look for. The
That's
fails, the
wonderful.
road rage, the
Right.
Karens. I see scroll, 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 political scroll, scroll, flip, flip, flip,
Right.
whatever.
Yes.
I'm training myself to move past those.
Right.
And I also know too, you mentioned the word algorithm.
Yes.
When you start watching certain ones for I don't know how long, what the duration is, 3, 5 seconds,
Right.
the
I don't
algorithm
either.
probably then says, oh, this person likes this. So we'll keep sending
Right.
these videos to them. And so I scroll as fast as I can through those kinds of things.
Right.
But it's not so easy to do in real life. I don't consider the internet real life. Um,
It's
how do
not.
we do that? Is there a method? Is Bempathy a
Yes.
method for being able to metaphorically scroll through that stuff so we can
Yes.
get on with what we love doing? Like for me, this.
Right. It is because empathy is also part of a mindset. So you want to have a win-win situation. I'll give you an example. My husband, I like him to perceive he's king of the castle. So I want it to be a win-win situation. He's not necessarily king of the castle. I want him to perceive that. So
Hmm.
if we go through life and we say we want win-win situations, because think of it, Richard, if
Hmm.
someone loses, don't we both lose?
Yeah.
If I'm in a relationship with my husband and I fight with him and I win, what do I win?
Yeah.
So if we can see that it's better to look at things and get people to maybe see the third side of the coin. I see you closing your eyes. What is
Well,
your
well,
thought?
no, no, no. I'll be honest with you. Because of I don't know what it is. Something in my eye is making my eye tear. So I'm trying to
Oh,
squeeze the tears out.
oh, okay. Well,
I am
I thought
absolutely listening intently. So no, no, that is not a reaction to what you're saying. Although I do want to point something out. The way
yes,
you describe, you let him perceive that he's king of the
yes,
castle. But
yes,
that doesn't mean that because we've seen the stereotypes on television and movies where the
yeah,
woman is like, she's in charge, she's the queen, and I'm going to let him think that he's the king. And so,
right.
but this is not, you're not describing in your relationship a manipulation.
No, that's not. Matter of fact, in one of my books, I'm going to
Yes, you
tell you
have at
something.
least three that I know of.
Well, hold on. So this
Yes.
is meeting people. It's not a game. And
Hmm.
in it, Richard,
Hmm.
I say it's not a game. Think
Yeah.
about it. It's supply and demand.
Okay.
And we are humans.
Hmm.
So if I'm at a store, I'm I apologize, everybody. If I'm at a store and I see a great looking dress, no one's over there, and I go over and I'm oohing and eyeing over this beautiful dress, I promise you, someone else is going to probably come over there. They have this thing, it's a psychological phenomenon. I don't know what the word is. And and you can do this, it's been proven, they've done studies. If you stand on the street corner and all of a sudden you look up at the sky and oh my God, and you keep looking. Do you know other people are going to come do that?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm making a point. Perception is life. Life is perception.
Hmm.
So you want people, at least I do, I want to sprinkle happy dust over everybody.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
people come to me for. They want to find their dreams. So that's what my job, I believe, is to help people find what they want and find out how to get it. And
Mm.
so when you're in a relationship, no, I don't call it manipulation. I think life is perception. So, like I said, if my husband wants to perceive he's king of the castle, then therefore he is.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm queen of the castle. I've never really called myself a queen. So it depends. When you go into a situation, though, if you're in a business meeting, oh, give this. If you're going in the Indianapolis 500, do you go in there and say, I'm going to lose?
Yeah, exactly.
You
You
go
go in and
in
say
and
you're going
say,
to
I'm
win.
going to win,
Yeah.
of course. Now, you don't say, I'm going to beat everybody's butt. Maybe you do. I wouldn't. I would just focus, right. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
the point. The
Yeah.
point is you go into a relationship and you want it to be a winning situation.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things, I think.
Yeah.
And
I know.
also empathy.
Yeah. pardon me. I know that there are people who are in their second or third relationship. Oh, it could be a marriage, just or otherwise just
Sure.
partnering. And the
Sure.
previous relationships have been in a situation of a a competitive, a manipulative, shall we say, situation where I'm going to let him think
Right.
he's the king, or I'm going to let her think she's the
Okay.
queen, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And now they're in a new relationship, present day, and they're hearing what we're saying and saying, that's what I want. I really want that in my current situation. But they have
Right.
been, I guess the right word is they have been so trained, or they have
Yes.
trained themselves in the previous relationships to play that game, the old game,
To play that role.
to play that
Yes.
role.
Yes.
They want to change the roles. Where do we start to change the role, to rewrite the script, as some people have said?
Exactly. So that also is in that the book, the three sides, looking at the third side of the coin.
Hmm.
You want to, if you can't have a good relationship with yourself, then or a healthy one, there's no good and bad. I like to say there's minuses and pluses, so I
Hmm.
take that back. If you want to have a positive relationship with yourself or a positive relationship with someone else, you need to have it with yourself.
Hmm.
And so I have a technique in there, and we've heard it before where you talk to yourself. This is where you step back and you talk in third person. I have people talk in phones, listen to themselves. And so you want to be connected. A lot of people aren't really connected. A lot of the young kids are getting what is called a blunted affect. I really don't see it in the news. I see it myself. And when I
Hmm.
say young kids, even people in their 30s, I've noticed their affect is a little bit blunted. And an affect, mine is the opposite. So you're seeing
Yeah.
me, I'm expressing myself. Okay, so a blunted affect would be I wouldn't move as much. I would be still. My face would be a little bit flatter. And so this is what's happening. And that also affects how you feel about yourself. So the
Mm.
blondness people are feeling, it's not so much the dopamine that a lot of people are talking about. I
Yeah.
believe it's the your outer appearance. It's really affecting us. And I know that because I've been seeing clients and that's what's happening. So this being said, first is get in tune with yourself, get connected. Who are you? How do
Mm-hmm.
you feel? If your head is, my smile needs to be matching my body. Have
Yeah.
you ever seen people where they're like this, but they're smiling?
Uh-huh.
That doesn't match.
No.
So we need to, yeah, so we
Yeah.
need to get connected. So that's the answer. Number one is get connected with you.
Get connected with you. Many
Yes,
people have told me when I have been going through certain challenging times in my life,
right.
they say,
Yeah,
Richard, make sure you take care of you. Take care of you.
yes, right.
And I do my best to do that. At the same
Right.
time, there are a lot of matter of fact, right before we began speaking, I went through the
Yes.
house and I fed our three new kittens in their crate. I put
Oh,
more food down for the dog. I put some food down for our elderly cat who wanders the house. The only thing I
right.
didn't get to was feeding the chickens, but they are just fine. They can root around and find what they need until I get out there with the feeder.
Wow.
Um, so there are responsibilities in life. Monday, Wednesday,
Sure.
Friday, I go into the radio station to run programming and then take care
Okay.
of the other stuff behind the scenes and so forth and so on. A
Right.
lot of the behind the scenes stuff I can do from home too. So, that's what's kind of nice.
Right.
And I have to remember to take care of and look after and
Right.
be the loving partner that my wife would like, and I enjoy. I actually
Right.
enjoy it. It it
Sure.
it is a challenge because she's dealing with some health issues at her age,
Right.
I understand, and I just remind her, hey, you're doing fine. You are slowly. Remember, when you get up into the
Right.
60s and 70s, it takes longer to heal from things,
Sure.
especially if it's what she's dealing with and so forth. But she's a
Right.
very fortunate woman that her cancer in 2001 that she has been free and clear of ever since is the
Wow.
impetus for my book, Choices: 5 Steps for Life. So if it hadn't been
Wow.
for her, I probably would not have written this book that
Wow.
I have out.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that are going on. There's a
Sure.
gentleman, and I wanted to share this and get your observation as well.
Sure.
Gentleman that I saw on a short one of these short videos.
Mm.
His name is he's got this long and it's very well groomed beard.
Yes.
He's a cowboy. His
Hmm.
first name I think is Drew, and I'm trying to remember his last name. I was watching a long form interview with him. And the
Yes.
interesting thing about that long form interview, the host was there was this long table, and the interviewer was sitting literally at one end, and he was sitting at the other
Okay.
end. They were like 6 or 8 feet or more apart. Anyway,
Wow.
he was in one of the short videos that I saw of him. He was asked the question, "What is it that women do not understand about men?"
I'm
Well,
sorry.
and his basic response, and this guy's a very practical kind of guy. I would love
Yes.
to have him on the program because of
Uh-huh.
just this response. He said,
Mhm.
"What women do not understand is that men have, like, and he over exaggerated, certainly, 10,000 things going on in their head all at once that they can't express, they can't talk about. And it's not that they're
Right.
secrets, it's just that that's the way. I mean, I could sit here and list for you those things that are going on in my head in
Right.
terms of my life. I mean, I shared a little bit of that, but that was
Sure.
more, I was doing this before we started talking.
Right. Right.
Do you, with um, Bempathy,
Yes.
are people in general, men specifically, able
Yeah.
to maybe not express all 10,000 things that are going on in their head, but at least share either with their
Right.
partner or with
Yeah.
close friends?
Right.
I got this stuff going on in my head, and I have been told if you verbalize it or write it down, it's not in your head anymore, and you kind of let it go. Are there
Okay.
techniques within this process that will help that process?
Yes. It's a whole process. So
Yeah,
if you, well, I mean, it
I know,
is.
I
It's
know,
a
I know.
whole, there's not an easy answer. The three steps really are is that you empathize, you banter, and have a win-win mindset. It's that easy. And then if you think about what is empathy, because it was really interesting, Richard, you even said, gosh, she's putting something that's really deep like empathy and something lighthearted like banter.
Yeah,
How does that mix? That's the key. They need to mix. What
yeah.
we do is we do black and white thinking. And then that's how come there's no connection. So the
Mm,
banter is a lighthearted chit chat, which is what humans really like to do. It's how we connect. We even make fun of it. Uh,
yeah.
talking about the weather or talking about your favorite TV show,
Mm.
telling a funny story. These are all how, if you think about back in caveman days, people would get around a campfire, or even in the West, they get around a campfire and shoot the
Shoot the breeze,
chit
shoot the,
chat.
yes, I know.
You shoot the chit
Yeah,
chat.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
even say it. Okay. So what I'm saying is that the empathy is really important, and believe it or not, it's coming up. It's on the rise. Empathy. People say it's not. It is. Now, if I empathize with the Democrats, then I'm going to have an in group as the Democrats, and then the out group would be the Republican. So we need to start. I'm not getting into politics. I'm just
I know.
explaining
An
how
example.
empathy, yes, people think empathy is wonderful. Well, hey, I can empathize with my group of people. And then if I can't banter and be able to see a third side, then we are going to have a disconnect and we are going to keep going this way. So
Hmm.
that is how come my Bempathy is so important, because it teaches people how to do this.
Mm.
Believe it or not, this is a learned technique. And that's how come my books do help people to learn how to banter. And like I said, you got to be able to banter with yourself. And
Yeah,
then when you can
yeah,
do that, and it's easy. You just
yeah,
start doing it with yourself, record it. No one's watching you. You're the only one. You
right.
listen to yourself. I have mirror work where you go in front of the mirror and you stand and you go, am I approachable? How do I look? Is my face matching my body? So many
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
And so that's why when you say there's a lot to empathy, it's real easy. Empathy, you first empathize, then you're going to banter, and then
Yeah.
you're gonna focus on a win-win. So the technique is easy. It's a learning process. I don't know if does that help? Does that
One of
so
the
anybody can do it.
yeah, oh, absolutely. One of the things that
Yes.
I find interesting is there's this four-step process that I had to create
Okay.
when I got sucked into the political quagmire in 2019, 2016, September
Okay.
2016, and
Yes.
it took me 6 months to get unsucked. And
Oh,
the pro
wow.
and I went through four steps. The first was the
Okay.
hardest, and my intuition was saying, my still small voice was saying, and you can't think this in your head. You must say it out loud. And that is, teacher, thank you for teaching me how not to be. The second one was, I forgive you, but more importantly, I forgive myself for allowing myself to be dragged into this quagmire. It was the third one that I want to share with you that
Yeah,
ties into
sure.
what you're talking about. One
Yeah.
has to come from a pure, loving human heart. And the
Yes.
question without judgment is, what is it that you are so afraid of that makes you behave and speak this way? I'm not asking you to change. I just want to understand so I can put this back in the box and get rid of it so I can move on with my life. So I'm not allowing you to live rent free up here.
Mm.
And then, of course, the fourth one, which one of my guests shared with me, was three simple words that, again, come from that same place. And that's, I love you. Meaning, you have every
Wow.
right to be here just like me. You have every
Yeah.
right to live out your role, whatever that is, just like me. That does
Right.
not mean that I have to like you. I will accept you
Exactly.
as a member of the human race, but
Right.
I'm not going to look over that way at you and or what you're doing.
Okay.
Some days that's easier said than done, considering the type of radio stations I've worked for over the years, news, talk, and information.
Right.
But that's really what you're talking about. That question about, what is
It
it that you're
is.
so afraid of? You're beginning to ask the question from the position of empathy because
Right.
everybody is dealing with stuff. It's their own, but it's
Yes.
stuff. And when we
Yes.
get to that place in Bempathy, when we get to
Yeah.
that space, then we are probably, in a manner of speaking, sort of halfway home. In that at least we are um,
Right.
acknowledging, you know, our connection to the
Exactly.
other because we are all
Right.
connected and we
Right.
affect one another.
It's called emotional contagion. They even found out that it does exist in social media. I think it exists everywhere.
Hmm.
So think about it. A smile, I smile quite a bit. Matter of fact, my clients will tell you I'm always smiling. I don't realize it. So yeah. So
Hmm.
yeah. So when you smile, it's contagious. And so they have found out that emotion, not just in mobs, it's very contagious. So if I'm angry, it will be contagious. If I'm happy, it will be contagious. So that's what you're talking about. We are all
Hmm.
connected, and we just need to realize that. One
Yeah.
big thing that I
Yes.
do want to point out that
Hmm.
it's been said even just with not just with my empathy. We need to understand no one is perfect. Besides, everybody bleeds red. We all feel pain. There is a small minute percentage that do not feel pain, Richard. And do you know what happens to them?
Mm.
They die early.
Mm.
Because if you don't feel that you have a heart attack, if you don't feel that your hand is on the furnace burning up, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So pain is a signal, just like all our emotions. And so pain is a good thing. We just need to start looking at things in a more positive light. And that's the thing. So when you're
Yeah.
looking negative, physically take your body and turn this way and look at a positive light of it.
Mm.
Even in your conversation, you may be talking to someone that's a Democrat or Republican or independent. You know what? if it takes you in my Bempathy triangle, I tell people literally step back. You can feel it. I have them do it in my office. When you step back, it's like a suction. It takes the power away. And then you can either emotionally, physically, or both step back. And
Yeah.
these are things that you can do because remember, everyone is human. Most people feel pain. Everybody I know wants to be heard or feel heard and appreciated. And if
Mm.
we would realize this and that no one's perfect, including ourselves, may I tell you a story?
Sure.
I tell this quite a bit. I just told it to a client the other day and he laughed. About a year ago, year and a half ago, my beloved husband is sitting watching TV and he's stuffing his face, and I'm getting annoyed. Richard, I look at him and I said, Byron, all you do is sit around all day and watch TV and stuff your face. You know what he had the audacity to say to me? He turned, he turned and he said, Jill, well, you're doing the same thing. And so that's another thing. We need to, when we're busy looking at other people, or when our life is chaotic, this is again where we need to look
Yeah.
at ourselves. And there's no blame here. I tell my clients it's dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
To see what I'm saying? So this
Yeah.
is all
Yeah.
empathy. You got to look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And that's what empathy is about. We look at what is the consequence that we want in our life? What
Yeah.
is the consequence we want in our relationship? It's real
Yeah.
easy. There you
Jill
go.
Robin Payne. JillRobinPayne.com is the website. We encourage you to get a copy of her latest work. Actually, it's been out for a couple of years, I believe, and it is called Bempathy. And we encourage you to get a copy of it. We hope that you will go to that website, which we are linked to. We also hope that you will stay tuned to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, along with Jill Robin Payne, and JillRobinPayne.com is the website. Bempathy is the title of the book. You've written several others, including Meeting People, which I thought was real interesting. It is not a game.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the things that is so fascinating to me, and I'm going to share this very short. I'm going to abridge it because I could go on for maybe 3 to 5 minutes, and I don't want to do that. My brother and I are on opposite ends of the political spectrum, which actually probably makes us closer than if we were somewhere in the middle of our perspective. And we were having a late night conversation the night of my eldest sister's memorial. And this was about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And we were sitting there in my parents' dining room, and we were having this conversation, and it was of a political nature. And as soon as I saw which direction it was going, and we're talking within the first 20, 30 seconds, I said to self, it doesn't matter where this conversation goes, he will always be your brother. Okay? That will not change when this conversation ends, no matter how it ends. When the conversation did end, we had both agreed upon 3 issues that needed to be dealt with. Maybe not the actual solutions to them, but the fact that we agreed on 3 issues that needed to be dealt with was significant. And I am very proud of my younger brother who worked for Disney, who accomplished a lot, who traveled the world and has that perspective, took my parents on a trip to China. I don't envy him that. I am very proud of the fact that he took my parents on an overseas vacation. And now he lives half the year in Vietnam. Funny little side note, my mom told me, she says, oh, yeah, he has a visa where he has to leave the country every 3 months. Now, he's now whatever island she said he was on, but she says, oh, yeah,
Uh-huh.
he can just go to the border, step across, and then step back and get his visa stamped and get his passport stamped. And it's like, okay. And then the other half, he lives here in the States. And I made that commitment at the front end of that conversation with him.
Right.
And I meant it because I thought it was so sad that so many people in this country and around the world too, they take a position, whether it's economic, religious, political, whatever.
Right.
And they use that as a, not a divining rod, a dividing rod. And couples have divorced. Children have, so to speak, seceded from the family union over
Mhm.
these types of things. But you said earlier, empathy, if you want to put it, I'll put it this way, empathy's
Yeah,
coming back. It's coming into
it is.
vogue again. And
Yes.
you do see that happening more and more. Do you think it's primarily because of folks' fatigue over the divide? And it's like, I can't live like this. Because doesn't it take a lot more energy for a house to be divided, if you will, than to be united?
So researchers saying that it's just cyclical. So
Okay.
that's all they're saying. So they're not saying social media, screen time, or anything like that.
Hmm.
What I believe is that, and I've said this to you at the beginning, is banter is being lost. And I remember this is texting and doing everything virtual. And so if that happens, then we're going to lose the ability of connecting. So empathy, we can connect. It's just, it's going to cause more of a divide, just like I've said. You're going to
Yeah.
connect with your little tribe. And you know that when you have tribes, there's a lot more wars when they're tribal.
Yeah.
So, the United States is supposed to be what? United with
Yeah.
many different ethnicities. So we know what our ethnicity is. We also assimilate into other ethnicities also so we can understand them. And
Mm.
this is what we need to keep practicing. And by doing this algorithm, just be aware
Hmm.
of what's going on, get away from the internet, have a balance,
Hmm.
and go have a conversation with some other diverse people. There you
Yeah.
go. Matter
Yeah.
of fact, traveling, I just went to Australia and New Zealand, and that is how you learn about the Aborigines
Hmm.
and the Maoris. I probably didn't say them right. The ones, the natives in the New Zealand.
Hmm.
And I was with them and talking to them. And so that's better than seeing them on social media. So if you
Yeah.
you can do that, you can join plenty of groups in America
Yeah.
and we have plenty of different ethnicities. So I highly
Yeah.
recommend it. I think it's really a good way to learn
Yeah.
about people.
Yeah.
So
I
there
just
you
had an
go.
interview
That's
with a
my
woman,
answer.
yeah, with
Yeah.
Ireland, from Ireland, and we were
Yes.
talking about Gaelic, what little I know about Ireland and about Gaelic
Yes.
and so forth.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
was a lot of fun. I mean, it was fun to because
Right.
she had the information. Oh, there are only 21 letters in the Gaelic alphabet? Yeah, but they also have those little accents and other marks, just like Spanish has and some of the other languages. And then
Interesting.
you start getting into some of the other languages around the world, like Arabic or Hebrew, and you can't
Right.
even recognize what's being said there. And it's
No.
very
Right.
interesting. But absolutely, when we were
Yeah.
traveling, my wife and I were in
Yeah.
Ireland in 2002 and 2004.
Right.
Um, it was so wonderful. And my favorite part of it was the second
Mm.
trip in 2004. We flew into Shannon,
Right.
whereas we flew into Dublin the previous time. We get into our
Right.
rental car, and I kid you not, it's like, oh, week 3 of a month-long vacation. But it was the people that we
Right.
met, the kindness that we found. It was
Right.
just wonderful. And I could sit in a pub with a pint of Guinness. I could sit in the corner and just listen to them talk. I don't care what they're even talking about. It's just, there's something about that lilt in their voice, if that's the right word,
Right.
folks. It's
Right.
just wonderful. But you're absolutely right. When we start to communicate and connect with one another,
Yeah.
regardless, or maybe even because of the
Right. I like
differences,
that.
maybe
Yes.
because of the differences.
Right.
And I put this out to our listeners, when was the last time you listened or watched something that was
Mm.
not in your echo chamber?
I love that.
I have
That's, yeah.
I have put this out, not officially, but just sort of,
Right.
I'll share it here. talk show hosts, commentators, etc., on social media, on radio and television. Take, I used to say, take one whole program. If it was 3 hours, take a 3 hours. If it's 1 hour, if you could just do
Right.
10 minutes,
Right.
tell me all the good things that the person that you've been railing about for the last 20 minutes, all the good things they've done, what a good person they are, you know? And that might be a struggle for some. Um,
Right.
but it just seems like, and that ties me into something else I want to ask you about. But before I do, I want to
Right.
remind you, you're listening to Tell Me Your Story. You're watching it on YouTube as well as listening to it on SoundCloud or on the radio that you're listening to, the radio station, on the internet streaming live. And we're talking with Jill Robin Payne here on Tell Me Your Story. One of the questions that I want to ask you, Jill, in regards to our dialogue, because we talk a lot about that. I use the word or the phrase, words have power. Now, we're
Yes,
not
they do.
talking, again, going into the manipulative aspect,
Right.
but when you are talking with someone, you're communicating with them. And it's funny how I think back on that conversation with my brother.
Right.
He might take my words and try to turn them in a certain way. And I said, no, 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 I didn't. That's not what I said. Calmly.
Right.
I say it calmly. And I would rephrase it in maybe different words. How
Hmm.
important is that in order to really connect? Because sometimes it isn't just, I say this, you say that, oh, we're connected. It doesn't always
Right.
work that way.
No, it doesn't. That is one of the things in Bempathy. I have 6 C's, and one of them is finding commonality. What
Okay.
you're talking about is, and what I want my husband to do, he doesn't want to do it. He's a therapist. Is and I love it because I will even do it
Mhm.
to my clients,
Yeah.
paraphrase. And so you say something, it helps me if I re-say it. If I'm not clear on what you're saying, I will say it in my words, and then you'll either tell me, no, Jill, that's not what I said, or you won't say anything. So
Mm.
therefore, it's probably what you said.
Right.
So paraphrasing really does help because I have in my Bempathy, for one thing, to realize everyone has a different language. Everyone, not just men and women. Everyone has a different language. They use different words. They have different speeds. If they're identical twins, they have different brains. They have different fingerprints. They have different retinas. They are different. And we just need to realize that. And so that if we are getting irritated, this is also something for people to know that there's 10 levels of anger. And if you're irate, Richard, it's too late. I'm sorry. It's not. If I have a client that's ranting, there's no way I'm going to have an intellectual conversation with them. If I'm irate, really my son will tell me, "Mom, you need to go for a walk." Okay, so what we need to do is be aware of our level of feelings when it comes to anger and other things too. So if you say words such as irritated, bothered, and annoyed, you know what that means? You're 1 to 3 level angry, and that is a good time to find out how come, what's
Mm.
going on. Did you hear him right? And I usually will say, is this, did I hear you say this? That's what I usually say.
Mm.
And that's part of Bempathy. So
Yeah.
Bempathy is you're bantering back and forth, and you need to be aware of yourself. And
Another aspect of this that you're talking about is not only the communicating and dialoguing back and forth so that there's understanding.
yes, right.
A good friend of mine and I, who co-host a program on the station, we talk a lot. And we have another good friend who I worked with back in the
Hmm.
early 2000s at another station in Phoenix. And we
Right.
had a blast. We had so much fun. And on the 11th of January of this year, 2025, um, this friend of ours, having been diagnosed with cirrhosis
Oh,
of the liver, he was not a drinker. That's what's weird.
oh, oh,
He
wow.
had told my friend if he ever is diagnosed with whatever, terminal, that kind of thing, he would leave. And on the January the 11th, he left. I put it that way because my book is all about choices. I start out with my wife's cancer, and I actually did ask her this question: do you
Mm.
want to live or do you want to die? I may not like your choice, but I will support you in it. And I will tell you, for the first week after my friend told me what happened, I
Mm.
struggled with that, going, oh, crap. Now my words are coming back to bite me about choice. He made a choice.
Mm.
Well, the point I'm bringing up is my friend took the position, oh, that's so selfish. That's not, and he was upset and angry over the fact that this guy had done this. And he actually, over the last week or so that we've been talking, he's softened that considerably. But my point is, my friend has that perspective. He feels
Right.
a certain way. And I can't sit there going, no, that wasn't selfish. That was his choice, because he's not in a position to hear that. You're saying we need not just to communicate back and forth. Did I hear you say, no, that's not what I said. Here's what I said. Okay, so now I hear you say that. But we also have to recognize where someone is coming from, especially emotionally, because when he says, "Oh, that was selfish,"
Right.
that's an emotion. That's anger. That's frustration.
Right.
It might even be part of his sadness over this
Right.
gentleman's leaving. Right?
Mhm.
That's
And
that's what you're
that's
saying.
part of empathy.
Yeah.
That's part of empathy. See, empathy is a big thing. And that's how come when we are talking to people, empathy is the first thing.
Yeah.
And then you talk, you banter. So you really need to find out. And when I say empathy,
Yeah.
where are you situated? Are you looking straight ahead? Because if my belly button is facing you, that's very confrontational. So there's something called the belly button principle, where you
Uh-huh.
just turn your belly button ever so slightly.
Okay.
No one will know. In my office, Richard, I have my chairs situated where there's no way that a client will have their belly button facing towards each other,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very important. So
Yeah.
dynamics are very important. So we need to look at the whole, I say, look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And also there's something called TP that I say, it's timing and position. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I can go down Westheimer in Houston, Texas, just as easily hit all red lights as all green lights.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in a conversation, I don't care how great you are. I don't care if you're the best talker and communicator in the world. If that person is closed-minded and not ready to hear it, they're not ready to hear it. So
Yeah.
you need to, TP is really very important, timing and position. And I
Yeah.
think that's what you're talking about here.
Yeah, I am. And
Yeah.
in addition to obviously the sadness over I'm actually sadder over the fact that he
Right.
was diagnosed with this condition,
Yeah.
and not as much over the choice that he made, because he had already decided. And I know there are a lot of people, and I shared this with
Right.
somebody else who had just lost their wife due to a long bout with cancer, and of course
Wow.
passed on. And
Mhm.
my friend said, "Oh no! After seeing what my wife went through, no, I'm in full support of that. What he did, I couldn't agree with him more." And I know there are a lot of
Right.
people that feel that way. My father didn't do this, but he lived to
Mhm.
be 91, almost made it to 92. But
Okay.
5 days before he passed, they took him to the hospital.
Mhm.
They ran a bunch of tests, and he was diagnosed with early onset dementia and early onset Parkinson's.
Wow.
And his departure, I think, was really appropriate, because I don't think he would have wanted to live like that. I think, and plus the fact that he was missing his eldest daughter, he was still broken up over that. But that's
That is
something.
something, yeah, that's something very hard to get over. I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
people get
Well,
over
he
that.
said to me in a conversation, I think it
Yeah.
was around the day I had flown in and for her
Right.
memorial in that
Mhm.
morning, and we were talking, and he says parents shouldn't be burying their kids.
No,
And there was nothing I could say to that.
no,
Absolutely nothing. All I could do was
there's,
take it in.
yes.
Um, and then my mother, I had been gone back home probably a couple of months, and we were talking on the phone, and she's, "Oh yeah, I
Right.
had a conversation with your dad, and he told me he was tired. He just didn't want to be here anymore." My father was not
Oh,
suicidal by any means,
no.
and my mother, knowing his health conditions, and of course, again, this was before his 5 day prior
Right.
to passing diagnosis. Uh,
Mm.
he was in perfect health. I mean, yes, low vision. He had hearing aids, and he had a
Huh.
stability issue. But
Huh.
she says he had the blood pressure of a 20-year-old. He was
Oh,
healthy, could live on for another 5, 10 years maybe,
wow.
and says he didn't want to be here. So my mother, knowing all this, she turned to him and she said, "Okay, okay, Les. So what are you going to die of? You know?" And she was, and that for her, that was the banter. She wasn't making light of his emotions.
No.
No, not at all. She was just trying to lighten the mood a little bit, And I had them on this program in 2015. I interviewed them, and I
Mm.
think the most profound thing that my father shared, that my mother added to, um, he said that number one, he did believe in God. He just didn't believe in organized religion, and that my mother
Okay.
came up behind that and said that she supported all of his hopes and dreams and aspirations as he did hers, that she had his back and she knew he had hers. And I was told his final words to my mother were, "I love you with my whole life." And it was uh, an incredible thing, this communication. I got to speak to him the night before he passed on the phone, video. We got to see him. I was glad to have that.
Oh,
Thank you for
wow.
technology.
It
And
has
of
its
course,
pros.
oh,
Yeah.
and yeah, and he, of course, reiterated how proud he was of both my
Hmm.
wife and I, and what we'd accomplished, and of
Hmm.
course, told us he loved us very much.
Mm.
I wanted to say, "And Dad, you can go anytime," and those kinds of words, and so
Right.
I thought,
Sure.
no, no.
Okay.
But one of the greatest things they did for him was, as my mother said, they sang him into heaven. They put chairs around his bed, my
Oh,
sisters and some other relatives and so forth. I wish I could have been there. And they
yeah.
sang songs, some of the songs we used to sing when
Oh,
we would go
wow.
traveling, and
Oh,
some
wow.
spiritual hymns, and on and on. And he passed at that
That's,
point. It was really cool.
wow. That's beautiful. I've never heard that before. That's beautiful.
Yeah, singing him into heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Singing them into heaven.
Um,
Wow.
this process of communicating,
Mm.
no matter what the circumstances,
Right.
and I won't go into detail on this, but my wife's nephew passed away right before Christmas 2024.
Right. Right.
We went to see him a few days before. He, but we just sat there. We let him know we were there. He was aware to some degree. But communication seems to be, it's an art, and is it coming back? Is the art of communicating coming back, do you think?
I think it is. I think it's going to be a 50-50 thing. We have robots being made. They've been made. Seriously, there's sex robots.
Yeah.
There's a Saudi Arabia citizen that's a robot, and that was in
You.
2015. Oh yeah,
Wow.
go look it up.
Wow. I will.
And I can't, yeah. So we're gonna have people go that way, just like in Japan, they have a high celibacy rate because the men are choosing to go a different route, going technology, and they're really
Right.
having some problems there. So I think it's going to be a 50-50.
Yeah.
I do. I think we need to have more shows like this and have people realize that we just need a balance. That's all. It's not,
Yeah.
technology is wonderful.
Yeah.
Digital technology is wonderful. Look, I
Sure.
wouldn't be able to
Yeah.
do this
Yeah. Yeah.
if it weren't for that. So it's just
Yeah.
to be aware.
Do
Yeah.
you think that sometimes just because we can, does that mean we should in certain areas? And you can choose whichever you want, whether it's economics or medicine or politics or religion or whatever it is, because it
So
seems like, I'm sorry,
just because you can,
just because you can, does that mean you should? We were
really,
watching
yeah.
a documentary on AI.
Uh-huh.
And this
Oh
woman
yeah.
came on and she says, we need to pass
Right.
a bunch of laws to do this, that, and the other thing as far as AI is concerned. And
Yeah.
then she came back and said, that we don't know a lot about this technology. We don't know exactly where it's going to go. And I'm going, well, then how can you pass any laws? There were laws on in the about the internet back in the late
Right.
90s that didn't
Right.
exist until we started having issues. So that's
Right.
why I say, do you think there's ever a point where we say, maybe we shouldn't do this? Or should we embrace the unknown and accept
So
the unintended
so
consequences?
they're not really talking about this in the DSM-5. That's where people in psychology look up diagnoses,
Hmm.
and the internet is not in there right now. It will be, I truly believe, the next time in the sixth, because they have made all of this very easy to get addicted.
Right.
It's not only becoming a habit, it gives the person that you hit on dopamine rush, and it gets our dopamine up, yet we're not satisfied. We're not climaxing.
Right.
And so this gets us to want more and more. There's certain gaming out there that never ends. Social media
Yeah.
never ends, doom scroll.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so they even have, and people will be upset with this because we don't want the government taking control. Well, in Australia, just right this year, just last month, they made a ruling that in 11 months, anybody that's under 16 will not be able to use social media. Now, uh, yeah, you can look it up. So what's happening is, I'm just saying, this is going to become another drug, and we need to understand how to use it and where is it to be in our
Yeah.
lives. That's it. I
Uh,
just think we need to be more aware of it.
yeah. Are there, for those of us who are concerned, but maybe we're not aware, are there
Mm,
signs that we can
sure.
um, look at? I'm going to, for example, a listener will be going,
Yes.
okay, I'm going to do my best to be conscious when I'm
Right.
on the internet and so forth. What do I
Right.
look for, Jill? What do I look for?
In yourself
Well,
or
in
other
myself,
people?
what does a
Yes.
person look for
Think,
to identify? I guess I'm on the fringes, or maybe I'm deep into addiction, internet addiction, that kind of thing.
leave your phone home and see how you feel.
Oh,
Turn
wow.
off your computer and see how you feel. How long can you go without it? What are your thoughts without it?
Mm,
And think about it. And that's going to let you know how
yeah.
deep you are in.
You know that there was a one of those shorts,
Right.
and it was um, um, talking about it was offering a suggestion.
Right.
If you turned off your phone, your computer, et cetera, for one
Right.
week,
Where was this now?
who would come looking for you? This was just one of these shorts on like YouTube or Facebook.
Okay.
It was more of one of those suggestive types of videos with a beautiful scene of the ocean or sunset or what have you, saying if you turned off your phone, you turned off your computer, you didn't check your emails or your voice messages, and so on and so forth, and your texts for one week, who would come looking for you? Or would anyone come looking for you? Something like that.
Mm.
Um, I suppose what's sad though is that many of our jobs, what we do,
Right.
we couldn't do that for a week.
Right.
That would be hard. And I'm not even sure how you'd modify it. But anyway, we're talking with
Right.
Jill Robin Payne. JillRobinPayne.com is the website. Bempathy is the book. We hope you'll get a copy. You can go to her website and you order it, then it'll take you through to Amazon. She has what is it, two or three other books? I know another one on Bempathy, and there's of course the
Right.
the whole aspect of meeting people, which I know you do, and I love meeting people. I love going to play. When I was, for example, at this tasting room, we were actually, I was there just to meet and greet the host of this new program and so forth, who listens to my program. And that was the reason she called me and said, "Hey, I really like what you're doing. I listen all the time." I thought, what the heck? She's local. I'll go meet her. And then she's doing her own program now, which is cool.
Wow.
But I loved meeting her people, the people that she associated with, some of her
Right.
friends and associates. Are you ever? Do you like going into crowded rooms or rooms with full of people that oh smorgasbord that kind of thing?
So I'm probably different than I like to go and look at people and observe.
People watch.
I do. And then I'm drawn to certain people just like everybody else.
Hmm.
And I just sort of let it flow. I
Hmm.
used to just go in a room and bombard everybody. And now I've learned to sort of step back
Yeah.
and to watch
Yeah.
the
Me
flow
too. Me too.
right. And then you want to see where you would fit in and just watch the people. I
Yeah.
also like to watch couples. I just
Yeah.
people are fun.
I
People
was
are
in a
fun.
personal growth program and my wife wanted to go. And my first wife, I should
Yeah.
say, my first wife, she was
Yeah.
totally blind. So she needed a guide. And I figured, well,
Sure.
don't really have anything pressing. So. And so it turns out that I wasn't just going to be her guide, I was going to be participating too.
Wow.
And I started looking around at the room at the people that I might want to associate with or connect with, right?
Mm.
I'll put it in the context of the beautiful people. Uh, and there were people that I thought, no, no, I'm not gonna, the not beautiful people.
Okay.
Turns out by the end of the 5 day seminar, 3 nights and a full day Saturday, Sunday, I was associating and enjoying the hell out of it with the not beautiful people.
Uh,
I connected with them
right.
and had a wonderful time. And we went through two more levels of that program. I didn't do that again. I just connected with the universe, who the universe took me to.
Sure.
Um, I think that is that part of the process as well. You kind of described that too, in that in your going
Right.
into a room and people watching and being more
Right.
selective, but also kind of toning down your desire to dive in and be curious and so forth.
Right. So by slowing down and in my meeting people, I tell people to pretend there's a stick shift on your leg and sort of pull it back a little bit because
Mm,
sometimes we like to speed the process up, especially in today's age. We want
yeah.
immediate gratification. So we really do need to step back. And I use examples, Richard, such as if you're driving in your wonderful Ferrari, I've always wanted a Ferrari. And
Haha.
if you're going 200 miles down 610 in a Ferrari looking out the window versus 60 miles an hour, you're going to see a lot clearer if you go 60 than if
Yeah.
you go 200. That's
Yeah.
the way I talk to people. So you just
Yeah.
simplify and give analogies so they can really understand. Slow it down.
Yeah.
Uh, just jumping in sometimes is fun. It's just we need to think of consequences. And
Hmm.
that's really what empathy is about. You think of a consequence. Just like I said, you want to work on getting a win-win. We can't always get a win-win. We
True.
can
True. True.
look
Hmm.
to get that in our mind that that's the consequence we
Yeah.
want.
You mentioned New Zealand and Australia. You've traveled to other places
Yes.
around the world.
Yes.
Is the process is Bempathy going to work in all of the other cultures, or are there going to be some modifications needed? Or, hey, we're all human, so this will work for anybody.
This is going to work for anybody. And matter of fact, in Australia and New Zealand, they banter. So they do like to banter a little bit. Matter of fact, at the airport in Australia, at one of the airports, instead of saying delayed, it said relax. So they're I'm just letting you know. So their mindset is a little different. Although they liked, I've been on some podcasts that are in Australia and New Zealand, and they enjoyed this also. So
Oh,
it's going to
wow.
work with anybody because, like I said, we all want to be appreciated and heard, and we do want to fit in. We
Yeah.
want to fit in. And to me, if life is perception and perception is life, just start thinking about it. What
Yeah.
is it? If you want to win so badly, it's not just about us.
Yeah.
Just like you said, we are all attached.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there you
Yeah.
go.
The only
You
place
said
that,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
the only place that there are winners and losers is pretty much in sports. That's just the dynamic.
Well,
That's just the way that it works.
yes.
However,
Sure.
regardless of which side of the finale you're on, and I think mostly of Major League Baseball because I love the game,
Yes.
to have the privilege, the opportunity of playing in the big game on that big
Right.
stage. I mean, I've only been driving since I was 38. I got a lens implant in 96 and I
Okay.
drove through LA traffic and I'm looking around going, do you realize you're driving through LA traffic? You let that dream go and then technology caught up. Uh, I've had a couple of mishaps, yes, but I'm still driving. I consider that a privilege, not because people say that that's what it is, but because
Right.
I wasn't planning. I figured at 65, if I'm still bicycling everywhere, hey, I'll be healthier.
Right.
You know, looking at life in general in that fashion. Hey, I'm
Right.
here. I'm alive. I'm breathing.
Right.
I want to live. I want to do more. You talked about getting to know self, and
Right.
again that banter and that empathy. How does one have empathy for self?
We need to practice, and it also depends on how you've been raised. It also depends on your genetics. We've got to take all that into effect,
Hmm,
and that it takes time. First, you need to be aware that that's what you need to be doing.
right,
Because if you
right,
can't empathize with yourself, it just is common sense. You cannot, you think you can do it with other people, and you may. It's just, it'll be healthier. Everything will be healthier the more
right,
connected you are. So I tell
right.
people that when they meet someone, you don't meet someone that completes your puzzle.
Hmm,
You are already complete. That person just makes everything better. Does that make
hmm.
sense?
Oh,
We need
absolutely.
to be completed.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So something
James
that
Red,
we're always working on.
right, and James Redfield in his book Celestine Prophecy talks about the messages that we have one for the other,
Right.
and that I use the Star Trek analogy, when you put up the shields,
Right.
nothing can get out except weapons. Okay, and nothing
Right.
can get in, nothing. So we need to drop the shields, and we need to allow ourselves, men especially,
Right.
to be vulnerable. Do you think that allowing having women in all of the different aspects, let's just say like of the military, is sort of trying to masculinize them in terms of, okay, you're gonna have to shut off your emotions because you got to get in there and do your thing and so forth. What are your thoughts in that regard? Men not being vulnerable and now maybe women sort of being taught not to be.
So my look at my face. I my my thought and
Hmm,
my feeling and my experience is that, and it was even proven with an AI device that men's brains, they work differently than females' brains. Who knew, right? So when we're putting and forcing all this stuff, I'm going to say we're forcing. It is what it is.
hmm,
Now, there's something called neuroplasticity. There's
hmm,
something called epigenetics.
hmm.
So, yes, we can change the brain structure, and we are doing that. I do believe in all these things. So, the answer is we don't know yet. We really don't know the answer to that. I will tell you that women are women, men are men, and it's going to be a uh, there's always exceptions. I mean, there's exceptions that if a woman is, they are the weaker physically,
Hmm.
we're really the stronger sex.
Sure.
Uh, Physically, we are weaker than a man. You have more muscle mass. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not a doctor.
Right.
And so, therefore, if a woman is in a compromising situation, a lot of men that I know are going to try to help her.
Right.
And it's just what men do. They want to help you. You tell them what's going on, they intervene. Oh, well, this is what you need to do. So it can be an issue. And
Yeah.
when you get people into serious situations, such as what you're saying, the military, it's something that we need to be aware of
Hmm.
and don't fight it. It's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. Just be aware of it. And how are you going to work with it?
Yeah.
In other words, know who you are, be who you are. Don't be who you think other people want you to be, and don't force things.
Yeah.
Let things flow.
And before
How's
we
that?
wrap things up, that's
Yeah.
terrific. Before we wrap things up here, I want to ask you about that three-sided coin.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to us about the three-sided coin. And
So it's
does the U.S. government, the U.S. Treasury, do they mint it?
I wish. Wouldn't that be so nice if you could just give someone a coin and that it would open their mind up? That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. Then
Yeah.
again, not. We don't want anybody planting something in our heads. So, right? I mean, so there's pros
Well,
and
yeah.
cons to everything. So
Hmm.
basically, it is everything that we've been talking about. We have been bantering. You've been talking about your sides. I've been talking about my sides. We've had compromises. And matter of fact, this is not a cover. This is just I'm just showing you my little people here. So
Right.
we have three different personalities. Some of us have all three, some of us have one. One of them is right here is little Bo, is the compromiser. And
Mm.
little Bo helps people see another side of the coin. We need to be open. We need to be open to it.
Yeah.
So what Bempathy does is if you empathize and you really listen to somebody. Matter of fact, if you repeat someone's name a lot, they just love you. Anyway, if we empathize and stand back a little bit, got it, and see the big picture, and then
Hmm.
start bantering and connecting, it helps people feel special. It helps them let their guard down and then start being more open.
Mm.
And that's what it's all about. There you go.
Bempathy and meeting people. And we're talking with Jill Robin Payne. JillRobinPayne.com is the website. Go to that website and order your copy. And this is Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and it has been a real pleasure to have the opportunity to talk with Jill Robin Payne here on the program, talking about the work that she has done through the years that she's been doing this, and hopefully you folks will have some fun with this, incorporating empathy and banter into your life, especially banter. I know that
Yeah.
we've taken communication to a rather serious level. I sometimes have to tone my attitude down because my wife is suddenly bantering with me, and I'm not sure whether she's being serious or she's playing. And if I guess
Right.
wrong, then sometimes it feels like there's hell to pay. But
Right.
we can work through that. But I think that this is an opportunity for people to really change their perspective, build confidence, and especially navigating the diversities of relationships with ease, with fun, with again with that banter. And Jill, I want to thank you so much for
Right.
sharing all of this with us.
Thank you so much, Richard, for having
I
me.
have I have three final questions I ask all of my guests, and we
Oh,
can we
okay.
can we can.
Okay.
All right. We can go through them quickly. And again, this is whatever comes to mind. I'm going to preface that
Okay.
because a lot of people say, what do you mean by that? The first question is, who is Jill Robin Payne?
Wow. She's an eclectic person who loves all people, and that can be an issue sometimes. So that's really me, and I want to help people. Like I said, I'd like to sprinkle a happy dust on everybody. And
Ah,
so I've learned the hard way though, with my
yeah.
being kicked in the butt every once in a while. But butts. We sit on butts. That's me. That's me. Yeah.
Okay.
Matter of fact, you have to. That's probably how I devised Bempathy. Is we need to stand back a little bit, so to be able to know, is it okay to be safe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What gets you up in the morning?
Oh my gosh, I'm usually my mind. That's all. I was
Mm.
just talking to a girlfriend. I am constantly thinking. I'm up every hour just thinking about things. Sometimes I
Mm.
need to do what I call mind dumping, and that's just putting things on paper. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's my head,
Mm.
my mind.
And finally, what was your best day?
Oh, that's easy. The birth of my son.
Ah.
That was the best day of my life.
Mm. Once again,
So,
thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being a part of the work that we're doing here to change the world. It may be one person, one item at a time, but little by little, we're going to make this a better place for everybody. And I thank you for being a part of that. I
thank
thank
you.
you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to Lal, Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Mike, you left too soon. To my best friend, Doug, I'll see you on the other side. And to my dear friend, Zorro, aho, aho.